Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Players Own YouTube channel. And what a cup final we had last night. The League Cup final once again delivers. Liverpool running out 1-0 winners against Chelsea in dramatic fashion. It had to be in this game. It seemed like that continual history of 0-0s was going to happen, but Virgil van Dijk came up clutch, captain courageous in the 118th minute to head home the winner for Liverpool. And they absolutely deserved that result. It was the expensive players versus the academy, and the academy came up on top. So faith in football humanity is restored. No longer does money buy you success and happiness. It was the youth academy of Liverpool. It was grit, grind and determination that got that team over the line. Liverpool now become 10-time winners of the Carabao Cup or League Cup, whichever way you want to look at it. And it was an absolutely incredible performance from start to finish. In the 90 minutes, it was ping-pong. It was Chelsea's go, Liverpool's go, and end to end. There was chances galore. I'll duck into and talk about the game in a little bit here. But, in terms of an overall summary, it was back and forth. But when it came to the clutch moments, when it came to extra time, it was Liverpool, despite having inexperienced players that, worked harder and got over the line, as Chelsea sort of went in their shell a bit and struggled in the extra time period. As I said, Van Dijk, as I said on the live stream as well, Virgil van Dijk, which was, Jurgen Klopp's man in many regards. He was one of the early signings that Klopp made. His big money signing stood up for him in this final season. It's almost poetic how Van Dijk got the win in the end. And it still means that Liverpool have the ability to go for the quadruple. It's still alive. They're in the FA Cup round of 16. They're in the Europa League round of 16. They're top of the Premier League as we currently stand. So all still alive. And I have a lot of faith in this Liverpool side. I'll touch on who's missing in a little bit. But it doesn't matter who's missing. It's Jurgen Klopp's system. It's the players he trusts. And it's the belief the players have in this manager. They'll go out there and fight hammer and tongs for this manager. And it goes to show no matter who's on the pitch, they'll get the job done. That's why I have so much faith in Liverpool. Obviously, City are going to run them all the way in the Premier League. We know Arsenal are in great form. But with all that's sort of happening, with Jurgen Klopp, time coming to an end, with the form that Salah's in, Van Dijk at his best once again, Trent playing incredibly well. You've got like Connor Bradley and Bobby Clark showing what they're all about off the bench and using that youthful talent as well. It just feels like everything is going in Liverpool's direction. And this cup final win, how heroic and memorable it will be, might just give them momentum to push them over the line in the Premier League and the other cup competitions. Before we get into the game breakdown, guys, if you wouldn't mind smashing a like on this video, subscribing to the Players Own channel, also sharing it with mates, that would be much appreciated. But let's get into this game. As I said, it seemed to go back and forth, and it looked like it was due to go to penalties like we have been in 2022 for the Chelsea-Liverpool FA Cup and Carabao Cup finals, respectively. And it started a bit open and to win sort of nature, but the big turning point came early in the game as Ryan Gravenberch was forced off the pitch after Caicedo, with a very poor challenge, the first refereeing mistake, stepped and put his foot down onto the high ankle region of Ryan Gravenberch. His foot was planted and looked like a very bad ankle injury, adding to that list, obviously, which I'll get to in a bit, but very similar to that Curtis Jones injury not too long ago at Brentford. And that was the first one I questioned. At the time, I let it go, but looking back, the referee should have at least had a look at that on the monitor, because that was a very poor challenge. It injured the player, and as such, Jurgen Klopp was very angry in the sidelines. And that meant there was shuffles to be made. It was Joe Gomez that came onto the pitch for Ryan Gravenberch. It pushed Harvey Elliott back into midfield. Connor Bradley moved from right back to right wing, and then Joe Gomez slowed in at right back. So a lot of moving pieces, a lot of square pegs in round holes, but it wouldn't stop Liverpool. They continued to play their style of football. They were pressing high early, forcing a lot of mistakes from the Chelsea back line of possession. Chilwell, Gusto, not comfortable at all. Enzo Fernandez, throughout the whole game, was quite poor. He wasn't great in the ball either, and it was the Liverpool high press. It almost felt like a 2019 Liverpool side, 2020 Liverpool side, really high pressing. You think of like Mane, Firmino, Henderson, that sort of group. That's what it sort of felt like. Without their big names there, they were going with that more high pressing, high energy style of football, and it was working early on. There was a few chances there for Gakpo and Diaz. The game continued on. I was going to touch on that quickly. Kerman Kelleher makes some massive saves. Early in the game, he made a great close-range save from Cole Palmer. He should have made it 1-0 in the 20th minute. Outstretched left hand, stopped that one there. He'd gone and stopped Gallagher in a 1-on-1 in the 85th minute. And then in the 92nd minute, a double effort from Palmer and Nkunku, you saved twice there. So he was massive for them this game and easily could have been man of the match, in my eyes. A superb performance, but kept them in the game early as well with some big saves. Chelsea thought they'd taken the lead in the 33rd minute, but Nicholas Jackson was offside by millimetres before he crossed the ball to Sterling and put the ball in the back of the net. That's the only two times these two really made an impact in this game, and it was end up being ruled for offside. So they would have quiet nights. Cody Gakpo was the next player in the highlights. He was massive in this game in terms of supplying a presence down the middle. They didn't have much options, but he stood up in this game and he could have headed Liverpool up just before half-time, but his header from a great Robertson cross hit the upright, and it just seemed at that point, with the offside goal and then Gakpo in the upright, it felt like this game was destined to once again be an entertaining 0-0. We continued the second half, and it was in the 60th minute where Virgil van Dijk got on the end of a great ball into the area and nodded the ball home. But it was, once again, a very dodgy VAR intervention here. And this one really annoyed me because they overruled it because Endo, who was rightly offside, had interfered with Levi Colwill. He merely stood his ground. He might have ran into Colwill a little bit, but never hugged him. Colwill wrapped his hands around Endo and claimed some sort of foul interference. And I just think for VAR to pick something so small out of the whole build, a whole play, ignoring the fact that Virgil van Dijk was tugged and held down by Ben Chilwell, it's just, you're picking out minute things, just stopping goals in games of football. We're here for entertainment, we're here for goals, and you're picking small things like that to ruin a game of football like that. So that was the second decision in this game that really annoyed me. Firstly, to not pick up in that Caicedo, most likely red card, and then to ignore to pick up the most tiny thing in the build-up of a play. I just think it's just frustrating with VAR at the moment. I made a massive rant video early in the season about how poor it's been. We had a few good weeks, but look, in Spain, there's been multiple mistakes with Atletico, Real Madrid, also Girona in there as well. And the Champions League, questionable ones for Real Madrid and against Leipzig. It's just, we cannot get it right. And I think if you can't get it right, scrap it all together, because that goal should have gone in from Virgil van Dijk, and what a header it was in the 60th minute. However, that was overturned, and all of a sudden Chelsea were on the front foot. They almost gained momentum from that overturned decision, and they were charging. Gallagher hit the upright in the 75th minute. Those big chances once again later on towards the 80th minute, where we touched on that double save that Kelleher made just before the end of the regulation time from Palmer and from Christopher Nkunku as well. He kept them in the game, really, with those massive saves towards the end of the game. Chelsea had all the running going into extra time, but it was, once again, what I said earlier, extra time was controlled by Liverpool. I want to quickly here bring up their starting 11, which they went to extra time with, because this is ridiculous. Luis Diaz, 27 years old. Dan's up front, 18. Bobby Clark on the left, 19 years old. Endo, 31 in midfield. McConnell in midfield, 19. Harvey Elliott on the right, 20 years old. They had Tsimikas, who was brought on, 27. Virgil van Dijk, 32, the experienced Virgil van Dijk. Yarel Kwanzaa, 21 years old at centre-back. Joe Gomez, 26. And Coleman Kelleher, 25. They ended the game with that 11. That goes to show how inexperienced, how so far away from the starting 11 that team was. And you look at Chelsea, bringing on Mikhailo Mudryk, Christopher Nkunku, Enzo Fernandez, Moses Caicedo, Gallagher gets subbed off, but there's all these, Noddy Madueke comes on. You've got Colwill, Desasier, you've got Petrovic in goal. All the, I can go on forever and ever. Millions and millions of pounds there, millions and millions of wages. But guess who beat them? It was this young Liverpool side. Substitutions, Dan's, like I said, Yarel Kwanzaa, McConnell, Bobby Clark. It's just these names, the youth academy. That's what made it so inspirational. That's why I was almost barracking for Liverpool in that extra time period. It was just youth, it was talent, it was passion. And that's what Jurgen Klopp's teams have always been about in his time managing. I think in Germany, always the underdog with Borussia Dortmund, with that, side that was built up from the ground up through some youth players, through some smart transfer work. In this game here, the same sort of thing. Chelsea with the Bayern Munich with all the big money signings, the big players with a lot of wages. But it was Jurgen Klopp with his Liverpool side, with his youth academy players that got over the line. In extra time, the first big chance fell to Liverpool. Dan's could have been the hero, rising up from a header. His shot was destined to go in, but it was saved by Petrovic. Next, following that, Harvey Elliott in the 115th minute had a superb volley from the ball that was swung in. His shot was saved very smartly by Petrovic with an extended left shin. Dan tried to follow it in for the tap in, but it was well ushered away by Colwill and Desasi. And then finally the deadlock was broken in the 118th minute. The ball from the corner came in by Tsimikas. Van Dijk got it in the head of Mikhailo Mudryk and Levi Colwill, and Desasi, and headed home the winner with a superb header once again. 2 goals in this game, as Jurgen Klopp said in his post-match press conference for Virgil van Dijk. The hero, the saviour, and what a man to do it. In his first year as captain of the club, he gets to lift his first trophy, and it was off his own back. What a performance for Virgil van Dijk, and what a performance from Liverpool, and what a game in general. These two teams know how to put on a great cup final, and it was entertaining, one of the most entertaining 1-0s we have seen all year across all the leagues at the moment. In terms of the big talking points, it was, basically the kids outplayed Chelsea's big star players. think Gary Neville was saying about the billionaire bottle jobs in blue. Like that's sort of what it felt like. They had all the momentum going into extra time, but it was the youngsters that changed the game for Liverpool. Bobby Clark, boy, oh boy, round of applause for Bobby Clark. We've seen what he's been about. We've seen a few appearances for him off the bench in certain cup competitions, but this was ridiculous. Came on for Alexis McAllister. Like no one that's quite poor at all. It was Alexis McAllister who was doing a great job midfield alongside Wataru Endo and lived up and exceeded that what McAllister was doing, controlling the game, great feet in tight areas, under the press of Chelsea midfielders like Caicedo, who's playing very well, was able to find the right pass, popped up in dangerous areas, always creating something for his Liverpool side, and that was just ridiculous. That these young kids, even Dance, came on, pressed high, could have had a goal himself in the first half of extra time. McConnell as well, the youngster in midfield, really stood up. Had a few shaky moments to start off with, but grew into the game as the game continued. Yarrell Kwanzaa comes on and just steadied the ship whilst Kanate was taken off, being fatigued. Even Tsimikas, the backup left back, standing up for Andy Robertson, he whips in the ball that goes on to win the game for Liverpool. This is what it's all about, and this is why Liverpool are a champion team. They've got a few champion players, obviously that's important, but it's a team effort. Everyone there is pulling in the right direction, whether you be 18, whether you be 32, whether you've been there for 5-6 years, whether you've been there for a few days. It feels like everyone in that club gets it, and I think it's all down to Jurgen Klopp and his inspirational type of leadership in this team, because the players almost want to die for him. You can tell that on the pitch. They are fighting hammer and tongs with this manager, and it was just, as a neutral sitting there, just, emotional, respected. It just felt like everyone was fighting, and when the Liverpool fans were boisterous and loud and chanting for their team in extra time, it just felt like they were willing the team over the line as well. Everyone is pushing in the right direction for Liverpool, and they deserve that win. The way they play the football, they absolutely deserve that cup final win. Obviously, I touched on some of the standout players. I want to touch on, for me, probably the most underrated player right now in this Liverpool side is Wataru Endo, maybe the most underrated in the Premier League at the moment. Obviously, had a rough start to the season. People questioning his ability to be in midfield. Does he get the pace of the Premier League? I remember that Crystal Palace game, he had a few really poor moments. But ever since that game there, he has turned it around, and what a signing. And obviously, he comes from Stuttgart, a very workman-like team, high-energy team, and he fits this Liverpool system to a T. And in this game here, wherever the ball was, Wataru Endo was there closing down spaces. Him and McAllister, that duo midfield was ridiculous. They absolutely bossed that midfield of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. I think the stats been shown up about something like 250 million versus 60 million, and the 60 million pound players got the job done. I've been big on McAllister all season. I think he's probably one of the signings of the season. Creative in midfield, can play in the 6, can play in the 8, and absolutely can play as the 10, but he has to do all these different roles in all the games, and he's had to move around in this game with Harvey Elliott jumping into midfield at times, with Gravenberch going off. He just knows how to adjust, and you can see why he's a World Cup winner, because he's got that vision. He's sharp into attacker. He was nice and tight in Caicedo. That little match up there was very, very good to watch. He's high energy. He can create. He's got the whole package. And in terms of an all-round midfielder, maybe Declan Rice is the only one who can compete right now with what McAllister's doing in the Premier League. Going forward, defensively, passing, physicality, he's got the lot. He's not the big size, the big bulkier guy, but he gets the job done in there. And alongside Endo, these guys are ridiculous. I think so underappreciated what these two can do in midfield. Wataru Endo breaking up the play, finding the right pass, being physical. We're seeing what he can do. And when he was missed from Liverpool were missing him. They were hurting without him when he went away for the Asian Cup. But he's come back and stamped his authority once again. I think without him in that midfield there, Liverpool would have got overrun eventually, because Caicedo was in great form, Gallagher was in great form, Cole Palmer would have found a way through as well. But whenever they needed someone to fill in or make a big tackle or win the ball back or press hard the pitch, it was always Wataru Endo. I think every blade of Wembley grass was touched by Endo yesterday. He was absolutely everywhere. And then obviously, touch on Bobby Clark. He came on and was ridiculous. But also Connor Bradley. Boy, has this guy been impressive. This kid is a superstar for the future. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's arguably generational at right back. But you've got the next generation, Bobby Clark, as well. Might not be the same sort of showboat passing like Trent can do, but he has so much IQ defensively. He's so good in terms of the ball at his feet. He's definitely got creativity in him. We saw him at right wing. He did a great job there, deputising in a totally foreign position for him. He did the job. He was unfortunately get dragged off. I think they just wanted an out-and-out right winger, but he does a job wherever he has to go, where he tucks in the midfield, whether he plays as a far right back, when he's playing as a right winger. This guy, since coming in this season, has impressed and more. He's definitely one to look out for the future. And obviously, Captain Courageous, Virgil van Dijk, another standout player. He was ridiculous in this game. I don't think he lost a duel always closed down the space as well, command the ball, playing that classical diagonal pass he plays, and just being a pain for Chelsea. They couldn't get past him, and they couldn't stop him. He obviously scores 2 goals in the end of this game. I'm not taking that VAR bullshit. He scored 2 goals in this game. Incredible performance of Virgil van Dijk, and warranted getting, I guess, that man of the match performance. In terms of Chelsea, they now become a record-breaking team. First team in domestic English history to lose 6 straight cup finals. And now there's questions regarding Pochettino's future. They sit 10th in the Premier League, I believe, and they're being closed down by Bournemouth, being passed by Wolves, Newcastle ahead of them, and they're just falling away. And this cup was an ability to wipe the slate clean this season. And you thought going to extra time with the players on the other side for Liverpool, it's a perfect opportunity for Chelsea with their, unproven players, but with the players a lot of money and a lot of skill to go and get a win and change the whole narrative around Chelsea. They did not convert on that. They bottled it in the end. They succumbed to the Liverpool pressure and these young kids in extra time. Think some of the experienced names: Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Christopher Nkunku on there as well. Raheem Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, all these players, all these big names have played, experienced senior football for some time now, all faltering under this Liverpool youthful pressure, and it's just embarrassing in many regards. It's now Pochettino. He's played 388 games without winning a single piece of silverware in England. And once again, I can touch on all the names, but Enzo was pathetic in my eyes. He got outplayed, outbossed, and out-efforted in midfield. Nicholas Jackson, once again, was average, didn't get much service, but didn't do much with it. Raheem Sterling was poor. Cole Palmer didn't have his greatest game as well. Malo Gusto on the ball was lacking. He was good defensively, but on the ball was quite poor as well. And there was just so many names for Chelsea that were just underwhelming in this game here. Then the only standouts were probably Colwill, Disasi, and Caicedo from really pulling at straws here. These 3 were probably the best, and Petrovic obviously as well. Those 4 there, probably the standout performance for Chelsea, but there wasn't enough players up to standard, up to scratch to get them over the line, especially with some of the names you're bringing off the bench. It's just embarrassing you're losing this cup final. With that being said, this video is all about Liverpool. They now top of the Premier League. They are in a Europa League quarter-final. It looks very winnable. Bayer Leverkusen looks like the only real opposition to them at this current point in time. They've got a youthful group that's won the League Cup. And obviously, they're top in the Premier League currently. And with this momentum from this win, I think this can push them in the right direction. Don't forget, they're missing Salah, Nunez, Szoboszlai, Matip, Alisson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Diogo Jota, Curtis Jones, Thiago Alcantara, and loses Gravenberch in this game as well. There is basically a starting 11 missing. And they've still gotten over the line here and won this game. They've still gotten the line against Luton, against Brentford in the game prior, and won these games. They're still scoring goals. They still look very aggressive and front-footed. And for me, as long as that back 2 stay there, and as long as those 2 are midfield in terms of McAllister and Endo are there, and you get either one of those forwards fit to join Luis Diaz, you're going to win a lot of trophies this season. I'm very bullish on Liverpool. I'm still in their corner. I still believe they can win the Premier League. I definitely think they can win the Europa League, FA Cup. It's going to be a toss-up how much they can commit to all these different competitions. But the quadruple is absolutely alive this side. And this sort of win, Jurgen Klopp said he's not proud often, but he said he was very proud in this game here because of what those young kids did. And you saw what it meant. Those senior players were seen sprinting onto the pitch. Jurgen Klopp in the post-match press conference said, I don't know what medical staff saw them because the likes of Nunez, likes of Salah, and all these guys were sprinting on the pitch to get around and celebrate with their young players. This just motivates a team, it boosts them to play through injuries, to get through tough performances and get a win over the line. Obviously, you've got City in the next month. That'll be very important. And the next few games, especially the FA Cup tie midweek, are going to be so important with all the injuries going around. If they can see out the next month, they can beat Man City and basically what, in my eyes, is the title decider. Liverpool this season have the chance to really do the quadruple. And I'm not just saying that in reactionary terms. I totally believe in this 11, in this squad, and in Jurgen Klopp. They've got it all going the right direction. In this game here, they pressed. This season, they've created for midfield. They've bossed possession in games. They can play without the ball. They can play with the ball. Liverpool have got this whole total football basically covered up here. They can play in so many different ways. They are so dangerous, and they score goals for fun. Everyone's talking about Arsenal and their goal scoring. Yeah, it's a good little 5 to 6 game block here, but Liverpool are doing this all season. People are not appreciating how long Liverpool have gone and just bossed teams, coming from behind, winning games from in front, scoring belters. They've won in all different ways this season. It's not unproven. People are still questioning if they can still do it. I absolutely believe they can. And it's the only reason that will stop them, I think, is the injuries and fatigue. But I believe that this cup, the win of this cup is so important for the confidence and momentum of this side to keep kicking them on, because we are now getting to nitty-gritty. 12 games left in the Premier League. Obviously, 8 or so left in terms of cup competitions now, they can definitely grind it out and they can do it for their manager. Because the last season for Jurgen Klopp, I think all these players want to play for him and get him even more trophies to lift come the end of the season. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that brings my reaction to last night's game to an end. I absolutely loved it. I was here for the live stream. I was going mental with both sides. One of the better cup final. Once again, these two teams delivering in that regard. And once again, as a United fan, it hurts me to say that I'm backing Liverpool this season with the story around Jurgen Klopp, the story around these youngsters in this cup final as well. It's just a good feel story. And I still think they've got what it takes definitely this season. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. How far do you reckon Liverpool can go in all these comps? Do they go and win the Premier League? What stops this Liverpool team? Who do you think wins the Premier League? It's going to get so nice and tight, nitty-gritty as we come towards the back end of the season. Don't forget, 2 points separates the top 3 teams, all in the exact same games played, very similar goal differences. So it's coming down to the wire, and I absolutely can't wait for it. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please make sure to smack a like on it, subscribe to the Players Zone channel for more content like this, and share the channel with mates who like this type of content. That would be much appreciated. Thank you for 400 subscribers. We are pushing out to 500 and beyond this year. Big year for the channel, so please come along and support it. It'll be much appreciated. That being said, ladies and gents, hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the weekend's football action, and I'll see you guys on a video or podcast very, very soon. Until then, see you later.